Hello students, today we're going to talk about data. As I've gotten to know you better, I understand that experimental design and treatments of data are important concepts that you would like to cover in this seminar. So let's start with this basic free write. I will ask you these questions and then you can pause the video and take a moment to write it down. Think about what's in your own mind, your prior knowledge, and then proceed with the video. So ask yourself, what is data, or what can be data? All right, hopefully you took a moment to write that down, longer than the break in the video. Pause the video if I ask you to do this. So let's take a look at what you might have written down. So when you think about the words that you wrote down, see if you can kind of aggregate them into these general categories of qualitative versus quantitative data. And in this video, we'll talk about what those words mean. So if I were to collect all of the information that you wrote down in that free write, we would probably settle on these words in common. That quantitative data is related to numbers, and that qualitative data is somehow related to words, symbols, observations, documents, numbers, anything that is basically non-numeric. Now, we might proceed into a conversation about this idea that quantitative data can be measured, and perhaps one might make the claim that qualitative data cannot be measured. And let's ask ourselves, what does measurement mean? So when we think about what measurement means, we usually think about calculating things, about the significance of the information. Usually we think about this in terms of numbers, but it could be something else, like we could calculate music and light and phenomena of various dimensions. But in some way we're going to have to measure it. And there are many ways to measure things, and some of the ways we could brainstorm are that there could be a scale, like if you've ever taken a survey where it says, you know, rank your agreement with this statement on a scale of 1 to 7, 1 being you don't agree at all, 7 being that you do agree, and 4 being that you're neutral. Or perhaps you would rank information that was given to you, and this could be numeric information or words, based on some parameter for stratification, like how likely you are to do a certain thing, or when in the year you think things happen. For example, plant growth, like rank the order of changes a plant goes through. Then there might be a spectrum of answers where there's some kind of continuous information. For example, thinking about how to calculate light. Light is a frequency calculated in nanometers. And so if we were looking at light, and thinking about the electromagnetic spectrum or colors, in a more artistic or visual framework, we could actually put that spectrum into a numeric language. Perhaps the data we have we want to count, and we can count the frequency of both numbers and words. Oftentimes we observe phenomenon over a period of time, and so time is in the x-axis. It's a continuous variable, one day or minute or hour or year after another. Then oftentimes we think about how living organisms follow a central tendency, and so we're interested in thinking about the average measurement across a sample or the middle measurement across a sample as a statement of generalization about a phenomenon that we are looking at. And then in the end, sometimes we cannot find ways to quantize word data or manipulate numeric data. sometimes the thing we are trying to measure is an experience, a feeling. And in this way, we need to use words again to describe it. And so what we find in the world of qualitative data, with which you might be very familiar, but other people might not have experienced at all, we're kind of in the business of quantizing words, right? We take qualitative information, we ask people about it, or we look at documents and compare them. And a lot of times when we digest this qualitative information, we're looking at a measurement of frequency. And we're describing in words how frequent a certain phenomenon is within the parameters of the inquiry. So these are just some thoughts to get you started about how science might be communicated, right? You might read a scholarly journal and you might read the conclusions, but we want to kind of think about how those conclusions are drawn, and we can read the methods, and I want you to ask yourselves, like, what are the general experimental design parameters, the methodology with which these inquiries were carried out? And when we think about the theory behind its qualitative and quantitative data, we think about qualitative data as often seeking a more holistic response to a particular question, whereas quantitative data is often presented in a more reductionist manner, where the numbers are, the point of the study design is to eliminate variables, to put a spotlight on a single or a few variables and be able to communicate their relationship to the response, right? The measurement of whatever the inquiry is focused on. So as you move forward and you think about the reading we'll do in this class and the project that you will be working on throughout the class, and in how you want to present yourself in society and in academia and in the professional environment, think about these general characteristics of data. Now, I'm going to give you an example. All right, so as I was thinking about what you were writing to me, I asked you to answer specific questions in the last discussion. And so if you think about that, those questions are interview prompts, right? I'm querying you, the research subjects, and I'm looking at your response to these specific questions. And this is typically called a structured or semi-structured interview format. But we didn't do it verbally, we did it in writing. And so I copied your writing to questions 3 and 4 in particular into this document. And so in my way, in the way of qualitative data here, I am aggregating your responses. This is the evidence I have collected as I've queried you about what you hope to see happen in this class, right? So I took this document and I put specific parameters on it, right? I said, I want to collect data about questions 3 and 4, and that will help me to direct the course outline, okay? And then from that, I coded the information. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at my shorthand way of coding your response, right? And a lot of times this coding involves frequency data. So let's take a look at that. Let's just query some of the words that I use to develop my codes after reading your perspectives, right? So the word water comes up 4 times, not including the times that I created it in the code. Okay, so we have water. Now we're thinking about the key themes of our class, right? Now let's try this word international, right? Let's see how many times that comes up. 1 there and 1 up here. Oh, but look, here it's just the term international has come up, right? And so we could also query that. We might put international in international shorthand in the same category as we're doing our coding. Let me make another space down here. So water, oops, and we have international, and then ask yourself while I'm typing, what else might fall into this general vernacular but mean the same thing? How about global? Okay, so let's take a look for the word global. Okay, so this came up twice. All right. And we had one international, so we'll put a 3 on that whole category. Now let's look over here. Let's look for the word climate, okay? All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4 times. All right, I hope you can see where we're going with this. If I continued the list, we would start to really be able to frame and be able to conclude with words from these words what the themes were. And this is what we do a lot when we're looking at issues of sustainability, because oftentimes we're talking about complex issues that have both sociology and ecological and environmental parameters, political parameters. It's a very complex system, and therefore we need to take in all of these forms of data to get a clear picture. So now, of course, our overarching theme is sustainability. So if I just ask for sustain, right, I have found 36 records, which if you asked a question like that in the realm of your data collection, right, that would be verifying the focus of the study or the validity of the study, because surely the concept of sustainability should come up a lot, since that is what has formed our learning community. Oh, let me take out these 6 since I wrote those. All right, now we'll do one more. Let's try planning. Planning was another one that seemed to come up numerous times when I was reading your writing. So here it's only come up twice, but then there could be this confounding feature that I didn't copy down your entire responses into this document. And if I had, then I think we would have picked up on those things a bit more. All right, one more. It's hard to stop. All right, ecology. We got 1, 2. All right. All right, I hope this gave you an idea. So when I conduct qualitative research, this is what it looks like. Obviously not in a Google document. I use a software program, but the collection of words is a viable means of following the scientific process to answer questions about natural phenomena. Well, I hope this was helpful, and let me know if you have questions.